A question many have asked with Oklahoma making the decision to go from Jackson Arnold to Michael Hawkins Jr., not just in the middle of a game against what is the number 5 team in the country, but ahead of its first away game in the SEC at Auburn, is how did Oklahoma get to this place? How did OU get to a spot where it feels like they're having to start over at quarterback and with the offense, given what Oklahoma had just achieved last year, going 10-2 in the regular season, just missing out on playing the Big 12 championship game, and then looking like you had a worthy and good heir apparent to Dillon Gabriel in Jackson Arnold. So I think it's worth walking this out. The first thing to say here is that not even Dillon Gabriel expected to transfer to Oregon, and that's not because he expected to stay at Oklahoma either. As a matter of fact, when Jackson Arnold committed to play at Oklahoma, Jeff Led was still offensive coordinator, and it was always thought that Dillon Gabriel would play his 2 years at OU and then go to the NFL. Not to Oregon, not to Ohio State, not to Florida State, not to Miami, not back to Central Florida, but to the NFL. And then what happened to him happened to Cam Ward at Miami. And I think it's even happened to a few other players that are playing really great college football right now. He got his NFL draft grade, and his draft grade was 7th round or undrafted. And I'm sure you can understand why that is devastating. One of the knocks against Dillon Gabriel is his height. And we are seeing that not everybody is Kyler Murray. Not everybody is Baker Mayfield. Not everybody is Russell Wilson. Not everybody is Drew Brees. Take a look at Bryce Young. He gets benched. Andy Dalton comes in and decides, no, I can go for 300 with this offense because he's been playing the NFL a little bit longer, and I think Bryce is going to get an opportunity. But Bryce Young and Jackson Arnold very much in the same space right now, where you bet the franchise on that quarterback. That's why you went to go get him, and it's just not clicking, and you don't have time to wait before you make a decision, before the season really gets out of hand here. And I am cautiously optimistic that Oklahoma is going to find a solution with Michael Hawkins Jr. at quarterback, and frankly, a solution for Jackson Arnold. I don't know that that's staying at Oklahoma or transferring from Oklahoma. I'm not really sure right now. I'm not even sure he's sure right now. We don't even know whether or not we're going to see Jackson Arnold play the rest of the year, and that could happen. I know that bouncing between quarterbacks is not a great way to go. Just because it worked for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh with Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody else. And even then, Cade McNamara transferred to Iowa. J.J. McCarthy becomes the guy that we all expect him to be, and they win a national championship. This year, they tried to do the same thing with Alex Orji and Davis Warren, and it ain't working because one guy is throwing the football to the other team and one guy is not. And that, I think, is the deciding factor when you were talking about Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins Jr. Forget the stars, forget the National Gatorade Player of the Year, forget being the heir apparent to being quarterback at Oklahoma in 2024. An offensive line can't make a quarterback throw interceptions. A wide receiver can't make a quarterback throw interceptions. A play caller can't make a quarterback throw interceptions. He has to throw the football for people to pick it off. Now, what I think is most important right now is you can't have that. You can't give away possessions. And you certainly can't do what Oklahoma was doing, which was turning the ball over on first down. And not even in the red zone, but on the 2-yard line, the 4-yard line, the 9-yard line. I'm getting worked up already because I'm thinking about this game and how it could have gone differently if Oklahoma just scores on those 2 possessions where the defense came up with turnovers against really great Tennessee offense that it kept in check. And that has been Oklahoma's saving grace so far this season. The defense is legit. The defense is legitimately one of the best in college football. And they'll get another opportunity to show that this weekend. One of the things I thought worth walking out on this as well is not just that Dillon Gabriel didn't expect to be at Oregon, and he's playing really well. He's averaging 300 yards per game. He's thrown 84%. And finally, that offense looks like the kind that we thought it would look like when he was quarterbacking it. They put up 37 against Boise State, and they put up 40-plus in their last outing. They get to play UCLA this year where they ought to win by 21, maybe more. I think it's worth saying that Will Howard is also having a really great year at Ohio State, right? He is 11th in passer rating. The guy they moved on to, and Avery Johnson, kind of like what Oklahoma did with Jackson Arnold and Dillon Gabriel, he's 78th. in passer rating, and he didn't look good against BYU. They actually got destroyed by BYU, 38-7. And now everybody's looking around asking the question about why don't you have a veteran signal caller on your roster in this age of name, image, and likeness? Well, one, you do. You have Casey Thompson at Oklahoma. Okay. Now, forget K-State for a second here. Forget Ohio State. Forget Oregon, who's got Dante Moore waiting in the wings, by the way. I'm going to tell you what Brent Venables had to say on Tuesday about Casey Thompson, and at his media availability about Casey Thompson. And he started talking about Casey Thompson as a coach. Okay? That he is more or less on the team right now, acting as a coach and being the senior in that quarterback room. But I don't think they expect him to play. I think he's an emergency option. I think if somebody gets hurt or it really goes down the tubes with Michael Hawkins Jr., you're much more likely to see Jackson Arnold come back in there than you are to see Casey Thompson come in. I realize that people are looking at Casey Thompson now going, that dude's played a lot of football, RJ. Yes, he has. But he also recognizes what the game is, right? The game is get to the young guy as quickly as you can. That is why Oklahoma was ready to go with Jackson Arnold and didn't expect to see Dillon Gabriel playing on a college football playoff team this year. It's why Kansas State was ready to move on from Will Howard. But there's also this really important and interesting note that comes back to name, image, and likeness, okay? So I thought it was interesting as we're discussing this. My buddy David Ubben wrote a really great piece about veteran quarterbacks on rosters at The Athletic. And there was one telling quote that he sourced anonymously that I'm going to give to you, and you'll understand why he sourced it anonymously. This is someone who is privy to Kansas State's decision-making and roster management as it relates to name, image, and likeness. Quote, maybe we could pay a guy $800,000 or whatever to stay and do nothing. But if you have that money, are you going to use it on a backup, or are you going to spend it on an impact player or a big-time edge rusher and offensive tackle, or an offensive tackle, end quote. That tells you a lot right there. One, it tells you the value that you can still get if you are Dillon Gabriel with a 7th-round NFL draft grade, or Cam Ward, who's not, at least last year, expected to go in the first round, going to Miami, or Will Howard going to Ohio State to lead them. There is damn near 7 figures on the table for a guy who has demonstrated he can win at the Power 4 level, but might not be the kind that can lead an NFL franchise. And I think that is where people are saying the quiet part out loud now. They are saying, we are willing to pay for a guy like Cam Rising at Utah, Alan Bowman at Oklahoma State, because we know that guy is going to give us the best opportunity to play for championships, given the other teams around him, the athletes around him, and that we still play college football. And as far as many outside of the sport are concerned, there's really only a couple programs that they pay attention to. And for years, that's been Alabama and Georgia, right? You pay attention to Ohio State when they're really great. You pay attention to LSU when they're really great. If you make the college football playoff, you're going to get the NFL's attention. Outside of that, they tend to not look at college football as approaching anything like pros. And you know what? I don't think that they need to, or that's what we're asking. I am saying you can talk to a Buckeye fan and understand the value of Will Howard because they watched Devin Brown last year. You can talk to an Oklahoma fan and talk about the value of Dillon Gabriel because they watched him last year and they're watching Jackson Arnold this year. You can talk to a Kansas State fan who can see the value in having a Will Howard near, but also wants to move on to Avery Johnson. And this is part of the gig, man. You got to take your licks on this. You either have to let that guy grow up, and not a whole lot of people are going to give you an opportunity to do that in this age because the transfer portal is right there and people are willing to pay you to just come be good with them or to show your promise with them. I think the guys that are missing out on this aren't the guys that have proven they can win or played a lot of football. It's the others. It's guys like DJ Lagway. It's guys like Jackson Arnold. To some degree, it's guys like Avery Johnson. It's guys like Devin Brown. Dudes that we expected to be really, really good who in their first opportunities didn't get to be really, really good. So now a head coach has to make a really quick smart, decisive decision about what that man's future is going to look like. And we've all seen the film now. We've all seen that guy play. Your value goes up or down depending on how you play. Potential is always going to be there. As long as you're a 5-star, you're a 5-star until you play. And then when you play, we evaluate you a little bit differently. I think that is the part that you need to take into context when you are talking about Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold, or Dillon Gabriel, or any of these other musical chairs that we're playing at quarterback. And rather than throwing up your hands and going, I hate the state of college football right now, I would tell you, find out where the market inefficiency is and exploit it. The teams that are going to win football games are the ones that are going to absolutely roll up their sleeves, push them up, and go get their hands dirty and do some work about who's going to do what and put on your big boy britches when it doesn't go well.